Hey everybody, welcome to the show. I'm here again today with my friend Bill McKenna. Hey Bill McKenna.
Hey, Liz Larson.
All right, you guys. So you get to have a taste of our weirdness. I mean, Bill and I talk every day like we've shared with you in the past, but today one of the topics, and is just one, had to do with something in neurolinguistic program that it is called logical or neurological levels. And we'll talk about it. It's just a chart that shows the places in people's lives that have meaning and where you could actually change something that changes everything else below it. So the chart allows you to kind of think about those levels and where you are on them and what your feeling is about them. Today we were talking about the love direction, which is an eye position that actually brings your body into a state of love. But as it turns out, there are eye positions for things like reverence, things like power. Also, there's an eye position for flat out anger. I was working with a client today and I intentionally put him in that position. He's like, I don't know why I'm so angry. Well, it's just the way that your body accesses that neurological pattern. So Bill and I were discussing this and some new discoveries that Bill had made, I think probably this morning or yesterday. And I was sharing for myself that for me, I get a bigger kick out of the position of reverence. So for many people, this would be the placeholder of spirituality. It's at the top of that neurological levels chart.
What is this neurological levels chart? Can you tell us about
I'll
that?
tell about it. I'll talk about it in just a second. But let me finish the thought about this so I can share where we're going with this today. See, this is how we do, you guys. This is the conversation. So at the top of this chart is spirituality. And for me, at the top of that chart, it's ideas. It actually is for most people, it's more like God. But for me, it's ideas. And for me personally, where the love direction comes, the prompt that gets me there is reverence, a feeling of reverence. Now, it wouldn't be like that for everyone. So it got us talking about this logical levels chart. And what it is a pyramid. And on this pyramid, the base of it is your environment. The next one up is your behavior. The next one up is your capability, your skills. The next one is your beliefs and values. The next one up is your identity. And the next one up, the highest one, is spirituality or connectedness. And so the idea is that if you're able to change any one of these, everything else changes to a certain level. So if you change your environment, things change, but you kind of still take yourself with you. If you change your behavior, oftentimes your environment changes as well. Like if you are a person who's bad with money and then you're now are more rigid and more disciplined with money, your environment would probably change too, your house, that kind of thing. The next one is
the environment is at the very base of the pyramid, correct?
Yeah, it's the very base of the pyramid. It's
very base. So the next one up is your
behavior.
Your behavior. Okay.
Yeah, how you do things, what you do. Like if you're a person who, is always checking your bank account, knows where every dime is, versus a person who never looks at it and kind of just spends willy-nilly. That would be a behavior. If you're a person who works out all the time, that's a behavior. A person who doesn't, it's a behavior. It's not about who you are, it's what you do. The next one up is your capability or skills. So this one, go to school, take a class, read a book, and your capability could change. Your skill level, what you're capable of doing. And when that changes, your behavior often changes too. If you know more, you do different, and your environment can change. The next one is beliefs and values. This is not your spirituality necessarily, but it could be your religious belief, your worldview, could be your political view, and it could be what you hold dear. You know, for some people, it's integrity as a value, you know, persistence is a value, that kind of thing. The next one up is your identity. This one is interesting. It's who you believe you are. You know, I'm a person of faith, or I'm a person of wild abandon. I'm intelligent. Like, this is an identity that people hold on to. Very, very smart, you know, or I'm not smart. Who I believe I am. If I change my identity, who I truly believe I am, not just what I look like on the outside, everything below that changes. My values and belief change hugely. My capabilities change. I can learn and do things in a different way. My behavior definitely changes. And often my environment does too. And then the top one is your spirituality or connectedness. Now, this is really about what lights you up more than anything. It's less, it's more of a feeling and less of a belief system. It's that feeling that people get when they're standing and looking at the Grand Canyon. It's that awe or inspiration. It's that feeling that they might get in church. Or we were talking about some other things, Bill, like music, right?
Yeah, some people are just, their entire life is around music, and it gives them absolute fulfillment in every way. They live it. They're actually living it. It's their creativity. It is their enjoyment. It's everything for them. And it's very interesting. You know, we were talking about how different people are, that they, let's say, you know, somebody like me, I think I counted up maybe 3, maybe 4 concerts in my life. I mean, and for people who are into music, it's like, what's wrong with that dude? Why? Well, you know, I certainly enjoy music, but if I'm on a drive, I'm turning off the radio and I am in my head figuring things out. That is my value. You know, that is, it's that. Occasionally, you know, maybe, you know, 1 out of, you know, 20 trips to Los Angeles, you know, I would actually turn on some music, you know, but only for part of the trip. So anyway, other people, we find it really strange, but their highest value is victimization.
Yeah.
And it's just the oddest thing. I think if you're, you know, if you reflect on your life, you might know one of these. They've been that way all their life and they're hungry for it. That's the only word I can use, is hungry.
You know, this is really fascinating, Bill. Share this with everybody. How could it possibly be that victimization would hold the top spot, spirituality and connectedness, in a person's life? How in the world?
How could that possibly happen? Well, the way, in very simplistic terms, the reward. If I, as a young child, saw victimization around me, and then people being rewarded for it, maybe someone got terribly sick, and then they were loved and cared for and coddled, and everybody else, you know, all the attention went to the one sick child that was there, and they were abandoned, you know, as far as attention goes. This would be kind of a scenario where you might get that to be a value. I've seen that there are certain people that are literally always falling down, hurting themselves, cutting themselves, you know, all kinds of things. And because it's their highest value, they tend to attract it. Like, oh my God, did you hear this person in adulthood? Did you hear what happened to them? But it's shocking. It's shocking how you can attract those circumstances.
I know of a terrible story that will highlight this. There were these two sisters, and the one sister lived in victimization. Somebody was always doing her wrong. Somebody, her family specifically was, treating her badly. She was always, the underdog. Her sister got pregnant and lost a baby. Lost the baby was born, but she was born with a genetic disorder and died very quickly. The sister who holds victimhood at her highest state was so angry that her sister got to lose a baby and got all of that attention. That's how important this was to her. I mean, you think, what the hell? But for her, it was like, there she goes. She's going to get attention for a long, long time around this loss. And I should have had that. That makes no sense. But when you're a person that is your highest value, not logically, but neurologically, is victimization, that's how you think.
Yeah. Obviously, this is a, as I look out in space and time, through all these relationships that I've, had and seen and people I've known, this is not a super common, but it's certainly common enough that I could actually name names of multiple people that I've known that hold this very high on the scale of what they value.
I think you said a good word there. There's a scale, there's a spectrum of this level of personality. At the far end of the spectrum, it's a personality disorder. I know of a person like that who will, their whole conversation, everything they say is about some horrible thing that happened to them. And none of them are true. It's all lies. And they're the weirdest lies that are verifiable. But in the moment, they don't care. What they care about is the perception that someone feels sorry for them.
Yes. Yeah.
And we'll say, oh my gosh, poor you, you've had such a hard life. So that really is a personality disorder, at that extreme. But then there are people at a lower level who aren't actively seeking victimization. There's something running in their neurological pattern where this is where they're the most comfortable. And it just happens in their life that they're victimized and victimized and victimized. And that's what they talk about. That's what they think about. That's how they live. It's really who they are. So it starts to bleed down. You can see it bleeds down into their identity. I'm a victim, right?
Yeah.
It's a sad thing when you see it. And it's also correctable as well. But I think a person in that state almost never realizes they're in it. They just feel as though they're a victim of life.
Yeah, there is really no other point of view. It just is. So much like the people who like music, that's like the highest value, the beauty of a symphony, the beauty of an orchestra, the awe and wonder of being with your favorite genre of music and to be fully in it. And just like it's them. That is it. Or just like your stimulation for Liz, about ideas, like, oh my God, it's a new idea. Wait a second. Oh, I really like that idea. Or even if it's an idea that you don't really like, you're interested in exploring. Well, what's that about? Let's talk about that idea. And even if it's a cockamamie idea, you'll like, really? Well, could that be? And you will look at different perspectives within that idea, and you have a inquisitive mind about wanting, for most of us, if it's a cockamamie idea or something that is outside the scope of your things, areas of interest, you'll be like, oh God, please, I can't even talk to you, but you enjoy that.
Yeah, I not only enjoy it, but it is the highest thing that lights me up. It is the thing that feels like for other people God, or massive inspiration, reverence. It's that thing. And it's how I'm built. And for a lot of us, this highest level really does speak to how we're built, but it also speaks to like our genetic makeup, who were our ancestors, what did they believe in, how were they successful, how did they make a living in a way, how did they make their lives. It all adds into this. So this is what I want to say before we go to our break. It's not there's no fault in this, and there is no right or wrong. There is resourceful and unresourceful. If your highest value is victimhood, that is ultimately unresourceful. It just bleeds into your whole life, and those are lives that are not happy. So it can be unresourceful. But it's not necessarily good or bad, right or wrong. It just is what it is until you know how to change it. So let's take our first break. And when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about changing from the highest level, because when you change the top level, this spirituality and connectedness, everything else changes it. And there's a special class of people who, for them, it changes instantly. Let's talk about that when we come back. Let's hear from our good sponsors. Okay, and we're back. We're talking about logical or neurological levels. It's just a chart that kind of tells the building blocks of your life, and if you change one, everything changes. So we were talking off camera, Bill, there's a special class of people for whom when this changes for them, their whole life changes. Who are they?
Okay. All right. So before we get into that, if you will once again just go right up the pyramid for me, because I need to hear things multiple times in order to really grasp things. I'm what they call a spiral learner. Every time I pass by a subject, I pick up another 10%. Now, this pyramid, I think the important thing here as a concept is that if you change the very top one, everything below it changes instantly and or very, very quickly. But the one that you're in, let's say you're halfway up the pyramid, what happens is that what is below it will easily change, but not necessarily the one above it. So the most power in this is at the top of the pyramid. So go ahead, Liz.
So if you're watching on YouTube and you're not on radio, you can see, I'm showing the screen of it, the environment is at the base, behavior is next, capability is above that, beliefs and values above that, identity is above that, it's the second before the top, and the top is your spirituality or connectedness. So we were going to talk about a special class of people for whom which they can change spirituality, connectedness, and their whole life change.
So this one is near-death experiences. Now, what a near-death experience, at this point, most of the people have heard of this, but people who are out there and have let's say a heart attack, and then they leave their body, and then they go up, typical story, there's many different stories of this, but the typical story is they go up through a tube into the light, and they have what's called a life review. If they go far enough, they'll actually see everything in their life happening again. But the weird thing is that you're the person. You're yourself, plus you're also the person who is also in the scene. So you're experiencing it from your perspective and experiencing it from the other's perspective. And in this experience, it happens outside of your body. You've left your body. And when you do this, it's outside of space and time. They all talk about that everything is infinite and that everything is connected and that we are all one. And when they come back, there's a lot of them said that, it was not what I thought. I thought my enemy, whoever that was, they were just, focused on something else, or they weren't even thinking about me. I don't know, what was I thinking, And so all of this is a mind blower. And when they physically come back in their body, it is extraordinary, because they go at the very top level of this pyramid. Oftentimes, people who were very religious, they become spiritual, but not religious. They realize that all the religions of the world were just a bunch of rules that we made up. We're all just trying to figure it out. And here we are with these bodies and trying to listen to the people who came before us. So with this, there are a cascade of things that happen. They are no longer identified themselves as Joe Blow, the guy who is ethical, or Joe Blow, the guy who is a partier. It's just I'm Good Time Joe, or what. They're identified much, much larger. They have a realization that I am one with all. I'm connected to all. You are me. So the identity as an individual falls away. Having said this, you can imagine the cascade, that their beliefs have changed. What they actually end up doing often changes. Their environment also changes. You have people who go from, being incredibly wealthy to giving it all up. They have there's been books written about this, the guru that gave up his Ferrari, or I don't know. That was, I think, one of them, or something like that. I can't remember the titles, but that's the gist of it. The thing is that, I had the gift of, there was, years ago, after I wrote the book, The Only Lesson, the president of the International Association for Near-Death Studies, Los Angeles chapter, had gotten a hold of it, and he read it, and he said, "Oh, this is the near-death experience without having one." Anyway, he wanted everybody to know that they didn't have to die to have it. So he had put it out there. But when I ended up going around and talking to the different chapters. It's called IANDS, IANDS, and there's chapters all over the world for everybody who wants, and they'll let anybody go. Usually it's on a Saturday. And the people that are there, it's for people interested and for people who are near deathers, near people who've experienced it. When I was there, though, when I went, I realized the real reason that I was supposed to be there. And the real reason was, these people who have been through this experience are all jacked up. That's a term we use in the United States. It's like seriously having a hard time integrating back into life.
Can I ask a question about that? Do you think it's that their life experience is so shaken up? They've seen what it really is. They've seen what this life is really about. And then they're having a hard time recontextualizing it or putting it back into the those pyramid pieces, like having life make sense. Is that what the problem is?
That is one of the problems. The relationships collapse, all kinds of things happen. But one of the problems is that you're neither here nor there. When you go through this experience, there is typically this portion of you that continues to understand and experience oneness. So, like right now, if let's say Liz and me are having this conversation, if Liz's knee hurts, my knee hurts. If Liz is down, I'm down. And it is oneness. If Liz is elated, I'm elated. And so it goes way beyond that, though. Like, you don't know where your energy stops and the other one starts. Imagine what that's like, where that would be a normal kind of human experience of the knee and this, that. But imagine taking that, and let's say it's a 3, and now you got it cranked up to about an 8. They're feeling so much more, feeling everything, light, sound, everything becomes extremely overwhelming. Just walking into a room, even though they're physically, let's say, oh, I'm over my heart attack, or I'm physically, my body is mended. You're still like, it's a typical state of overwhelm, and they don't have the tool set, which is a completely different tool set, to manage energy.
This makes me think of people who do have an experience like yours, or have a major, major spiritual awakening, not necessarily from an NDE. And all of a sudden, from the outside, it looks like their life falls apart. Their relationships change. I mean, dramatically. That's a big one. You see divorces, and people who are trying to create massive spiritual awakening. They can't stay in the same job they're in anymore because the meaning of it has changed. They just can't tolerate it anymore. Their bodies change. Everything changes. And what's interesting to me about it is we hear this every day. People I want change. I want to change everything. Well, not necessarily. Because when everything changes. And for a person with NDE or this massive spiritual awakening, if other pieces below them have not been organized in advance, the life will look like it is falling apart. It can really feel like free fall. So we want to change that spirituality level, but we want to change it in a controlled way. Would that be the truth, or what would you say about it?
Well, it's a lot more gentle. If you have a controlled ascent, a controlled ascent would be the way I would put it, because it can be very very difficult to have all change happen instantly.
True. And Bill McKenna and I have figured out a way actually to do this. It's called our Cogno Conscious event. And this is exactly what we do. We start at the bottom, the base, the root chakra, the lowest level, it's shame. And in those lower levels, these emotions sit, and they have to do with your environment. It's your base, your core, your home, your all of that, right? So we start changing those to a more resourceful state at to begin with. We don't start up at enlightenment or spiritual connection. We start down low in the base emotions and feelings, and start to shift them at a neurological level in the body. So the body then becomes more stable, becomes more sure at its base. Then it moves up into the higher and higher levels until you reach that place of what feels like enlightenment. And for many people, it's like a little mini NDE. You walk in one person and you walk out at the last day of this event as a different person. And I think that's what happens with NDEs. You become a different human. And this Cogno Conscious class, a session, retreat, what would we call it? Seminar, I guess, is a word for it. I mean, it is an event. It does that. It starts to change these pieces incrementally over the days. And so when it does happen, when you do have that big epiphany of what all this is really about, everything else below it has been stacked up neatly, correctly. Now, it doesn't mean that everything doesn't change radically, because it does. It just means you have a better capability of handling it. You know what it actually is about, what it really means. So let's talk a little bit more about that, Bill. What have you seen when people don't have that set up? What happens in their life? So everybody, let's hear from our good sponsors, and we'll be right back. So what's at risk really, Bill, when people have like these big awakenings or NDEs where they don't build the scaffolding below it?
Okay, so we stand on the shoulders of giants. I like to take a little bit of a tip from some of the ashrams in India. And what they say, the legit, I'm talking about the legit ones, is they say before you take this journey, that what you're going to want to do, I want you to get your finances in order. I want you to get a financial plan where your mortgage is paid, your living conditions, the people you need to care for. You have people you need to care for. We're parents. We are children of parents who need care for. We need to get a stable foundation for physical survival. So get that house in order. And why do I say this? Is because it's so destabilizing that when you change your identity, you could get to the point where you're like, I don't care. You don't understand. I don't care. But there are incidents where it almost looks like a mental illness. But this person is really found themselves in an altered state of consciousness at extremely high level of consciousness, which, in Western society, it don't look right. You look homeless.
Yeah.
But they're in a blissed out state that defies logic. So that would be one of the things that's at risk. And it also is one of the things that you want a very controlled ascent. And a controlled ascent in terms that, as far as the work that myself and Liz do, is taking it neurologically one step at a time. So your system is stable, that both sides of your brain are running, that you'll be able to retain the left side of the brain. That's the logic side. The right side of the brain can take over, and you're not fully there. You're only got half a brain. They talk about, anyway, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to interject for 1 second that why we go at it neurologically is this is the way you interact with the world. It's how you take information in about everything that's happening in the world, and how you react is all at the nervous system level. So it's the thing that has to be adjusted around these topics, right? To allow for you to be able to handle physically, because you're in a physical body, these kind of changes that we're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, you do. And um, you may simply become, very unbalanced. So being able to really retain this balance in between my left brain, my logical brain, and my creative side of my brain, and all the different functionality. We need all of it. You know, even fear to the point of discernment, not debilitation. You know, am I afraid of sticking my hand in fire and leaving it there? You know, yes, I don't like that. I have a healthy concern for leaving my hand for an extended period. Yes, I walked on coals. Yeah, I can go do it. But no, I'm not going to stay there. I'm not going to stay there for a half an hour, and let myself burn.
Yeah, I mean, there's a resource and a not resource in all of those emotions. Of course, we need them. That's what the nervous system is for. It keeps us safe and alive. Sometimes it just gets a little overprotective and it holds us in one of these that's not good. But I had a thought about this, Bill. Think about a person where there's the NDE and the big spiritual awakening. But sometimes a person will get something at one of the other levels that's really big too, without having done maybe a lot of the work to get there, the preparation. So think about a person, and we both know one, who got exactly the person they wanted in their love life, quote unquote, exactly it. But when they got it, they couldn't hold on to it. The holding spiraled out of control, right? Mm-hmm. The person that you want more than anything, the thing you want more than anything, walks in the door, but you don't have the environment, you don't have the behaviors, you don't have the beliefs to actually stay in that state, to go forward with it. The whole thing goes sideways. You're not prepared. Money is a big one. The lotto. They say that people win the lotto and within 5 years, they're broke again, no matter how much they make. That's because they were not prepared for that, basically an NDE. They didn't have behaviors or beliefs or ways to manage that. They got the big thing, but they're still functioning neurologically the way they always have, right? So it's really interesting. It's not just about that. It's about almost everything. A person who will lose weight super rapidly on a fad diet or having their stomach stapled, that person, they get the body that they want, but very often life around them collapses. They start drinking or using drugs, right? They haven't changed their environment. They didn't really change their behavior, came from an artificial source. They don't have the capability or skills to hold on to it. They don't necessarily have beliefs or values that match it. Here's the big one. Their identity doesn't match it. A person who has maybe had their stomach stapled, unless they've done all the work, they don't have the identity of a person with a leaner or lighter body, right? And the spirituality or connectedness, like at that point, it's really, it's not applicable. But we see this throughout our whole lives. You be careful what you wish for, you get it, and then you don't have the scaffolding for it. So I think that's the big deal with what we do, Bill, is help the person create the neurological scaffolding to be ready for everything to change. It's kind of exciting to me.
Yeah, imagine that. once that is there, then you will be able to handle it.
Yeah.
Handle it. Everybody has known somebody who gets a bit of money, and it doesn't have to be the lottery.
No.
It could just be, oh, I got an inheritance or something, that it was, a good amount of money. And then they're back again. This goes in two directions. You've also seen people who are literally the builders. They if you give them two sticks, they're going to make a fire out of it. And the next thing they're cooking steaks. This goes both ways. And the great news is that there is actually a methodology to this. And it's a scientific methodology, and it's in you. It's your nervous system. Imagine for a second that you could feel every day great. Every day you could be compassionate, you could be loving, you could like yourself. How about that? You just like yourself today. You find humor in stuff. Just that. That is possible. And that's what's possible coming out the backside of this Cogno Conscious seminar that's happening.
Yeah, it's really true. I was working with somebody yesterday who's kind of in the initial stages of a divorce or figuring out if they want a divorce. And I can see from the outside looking in that this current issue they're having isn't the greater problem. It goes down that, neurological level chart. There's things in their environment. There are capabilities and behaviors, all the way up that are creating the problem that this latest problem is sitting on top of, right? So even looking at it that way, when you have something that you want to correct in your life, you sort of have to correct all the things below it to be stably sitting on the new thing, the new idea, the new place that you're going to live, the new business you're going to start, the new relationship you're going to have, right? Without that, it's almost like, a house of cards, one whisper and the whole thing falls over, because there isn't a scaffolding, a foundation of all of these other things that it takes to really strongly move forward. And I think that really is it, Bill. I think that is our intention in building this seminar. We've been doing it for years now, and the results are astounding because people have that ability to look at themselves at those basis levels and slowly but quickly move up the ladder to that place where they can see 360 degrees what their life is really about. It's really pretty exciting.
Yes, absolutely. Very exciting. You can imagine what it's like, to actually have the experience. It's almost kind of like, seems like that's not possible. That's not real. But until it is.
Yeah, it really is. I would encourage everybody to go to cognomovement.com/Cogno Conscious, or just cognomovement.com and our upcoming events. Look at the Cogno Conscious page, and you'll see the testimonials about how possible it really is. Well, you guys, we have run out of time for this episode. It's been a lot of fun. We'll see you next week. Until then, consider what parts of your life are a little bit out of whack and see if there's a scaffolding piece that is missing for you. And we want to invite you to come see us in San Diego in September for that Cogno Conscious event. Thanks for being here with us, Bill. And until then, everybody be safe and be well.